I spent $1,000 on personalized coaching from the best North American coaches in the game. Was it worth it? Short answer, no, probably not. At least not yet. If someone were to ask me if they should get personal coaching at this point, I'd be more likely to tell them not to. I got coaching from Joshua Graham, better known as Impact, Koty Angeloff, Eric Quintana, and the community's favorite coach and national champion, Yonas. All of them are great coaches with their own unique style that I will explain later in the video. I believe they all cared about my success and wanted me to get my money's worth. That said, for the most part, I currently am not convinced that coaching is economically viable for either the consumer or the coach. A misconception that I see a lot on the internet is people who succeed so much at a silly card game must be no-lifers. But frequently, the most people successful inside the game are the most successful outside of it too. This means their time is valuable, so they have to charge high prices, often $150 for a single hour or 2-hour session. I have absolutely no qualms with these players charging these rates. It is the only way it can make sense for them. And from talking to them, I know that even at these high prices, it's not necessarily deemed as the best deal for them either. From the consumer perspective, it is also not viable. Coaching is very expensive, obviously. I am blessed to have enough disposable income to pay for it without it hurting too much. But $150 is still a lot for anyone for a hobby. I'm sure plenty of people think it's ridiculous for me to have spent so much on coaching in the 6 months that I've been playing the game. They're probably right. My perspective is that I love the game and I truly want to be the best at it. I see it as most people spend hundreds or thousands on blinging out their max rarity deck. I buy only min rarity. I just prefer to spend my money in a way that I hope would help me top. The real problem with personalized one-on-one coaching, in my opinion, is that the game is too complex for someone to give you enough knowledge in such a short period of time together. You can learn a thing or two, but so far I don't feel like any of my coaching experiences have genuinely significantly increased my chances of topping any events I've attended so far. Speaking of tops, let's talk about my experience so far competitively after all of this coaching. If you don't care about hearing about my personal playing experiences after the coaching, there will be a timestamp in the description for when I talk about the coaching experiences again, so feel free to skip to that. So far, I have attended 3 store regionals and 2 actual regionals. The 3 store regionals I played at were with Lucci in 7/8, and to be fair, the coaches at this point I had with the session were Eric and Yonas. Eric and I spent time on BY, which I have never taken to an actual event, so failures to perform in any events have been completely out of Eric's influence. The store regional I ended X1 all 3 times, bumbling out of my invite. Truly awful, man. For San Diego and Dallas, I elected to play Dofi and got several sessions from Impact and Koty. At San Diego, I ended a disappointing 7-3. At the time, honestly, I felt I got unlucky. My first loss I paired into an L in round 6, a matchup at the time I thought was close to unwinnable. My second loss was, in my opinion, just truly unlucky, and my third loss was just pure tilt following the second loss. Something I believe is every large tournament run, no matter how good of a player you are, there's going to be one loss that's completely out of your control. True variance, unless it's just your day. On rare occasions, a player will just run the gauntlet the entire tournament like Impact did at the Dallas Regional, but this is very rare. I think the second loss at San Diego was one of those losses, but my first loss was lack of preparation both in technical play and deck building for the Enel matchup, despite my initial feelings that it was unlucky. Jump forward a few weeks to Dallas. This unfortunately went significantly worse. I went 1-3 drop. Man, it was so embarrassing. I've never gone 1-3 drop in all my years of playing cards. All 3 players I lost to were good players, honestly. I believe they all ended X2, which is especially crazy considering round 4 the player I played was already X2. Super impressive bounce back, honestly. My first loss was to BY. While it does feel like he got a bit lucky, I think someone like Impact would have probably found a way to win that game, honestly. My second loss was the worst Dofi hand I've ever had. Literally no playable cards till my 6th Dawn, and I missed blind leader effect. Didn't even matter what deck my opponent was playing, it was so bad. This could be seen as unlucky, but honestly was likely just a flaw in deck building. I chose to play a similar list to Armon, who won the last week in Birmingham. This means I was running only 3 Sengoku and my hand was bricked on triple Jozu. Before the event, I really wanted to cut one of the Sengokus, but chose not to. If I did, who knows, everything could have changed. Round 4 went similarly. Not quite as extreme, just no good playable cards early, still bricked mostly on Jozus, Kaidos, and Gravity Blades. At this point, things were looking pretty grim. I couldn't believe I went 1-3 drop. I felt like maybe I just wasn't built to do well in the One Piece card game. I queued up the literal first side event of the weekend and swapped out a copy of Jozu for a Sengoku and managed to win a Shirahoshi going undefeated. The next day, I went 5-1 in a side event, losing only to a BY. Again, I think Impact probably wins this game. Going 10-1 in side events for the weekend definitely helped me clear out the doom after the main event. Side events are really just a pity prize for someone who didn't perform in the main event. But in that moment, it's just kind of what I needed. I know a lot of people might think I paid for all this coaching and I just didn't put in the work or time to make it worth it. This is just not true. I play a lot of One Piece. Here's a conversation with one of my coaches where he asks how I'm always ranked 1 on the ladder, and I explain it's just I grind like crazy. This conversation is from a day or 2 before Dallas. I don't have strong testing circles where I can play with people who are stronger than me, so I play Sim mainly as my main way of testing, even if I know it's not ideal. Now let's talk about coaches individually. My first coach was Eric Quintana. I was pretty new to the game, not sure if I wanted to spend a ton on coaching yet, and his prices were very reasonable, only like $50 a session. He was great, very knowledgeable and helpful. He had me play a ranked game on Sim, then we analyzed it, then we played a few games together where I would explain what I was thinking, and he would tell me why he agreed or disagreed. For the value, Eric was arguably the best coach I've ever had. Though for me, it didn't end up mattering other than it helped me solidify that I'd rather play Lucci than BY in that format. Next, I got Yonas to prepare for the store regionals with Lucci. I mainly wanted to test Lucci vs BY as I paid for the $150 open hand session. It ended up mostly just turning into a deck theory and matchup conversation, and we didn't play at all. It was informative, and I can tell Yonas is maybe the best and most thoughtful explainer of all the coaches I've had so far. But in the moment, it didn't feel like a great use of $150, honestly. I think he has updated his coaching platform to include this sort of session for only $50, and that sounds like an actually really good deal. After this, I got Impact to prepare for San Diego. First, I just want to say, if I come off as an Impact glazer at all in this video, I'm trying to be as truthful and unbiased as possible, I promise. In my experience, Impact was by far the most generous person with his time. I think he and I really view life and the game similarly in a lot of ways. So even though I've never met him and have basically paid him for his time, this is going to come off so parasocial and cringe, but I consider Impact as a friend. Every time I message him about anything, he is always down to chat about the game in theory. Our coaching sessions were also longer than they needed to be, and I have always been grateful for that. I come from Yu-Gi-Oh! Where top players feel very secluded and gatekeepy, so having someone like Impact has been huge for my game. All of those nice things said, I still cannot say the coaching was worth it. I didn't end up accomplishing my goal of topping San Diego or Dallas. Out of the 4 coaches, Impact sessions felt the least structured, so maybe not everyone will like that. It could just be me and not Impact's fault, but there were definitely times I left my session with Impact not feeling like I absorbed as much as I wanted. It might be because of the lack of structure, or maybe he just isn't as eloquent at explaining things as someone like Yonas, or maybe it's just me. I seriously don't know. I think the main issue is that the game is too complex to boil it down to X number of hours with a coach, regardless of how good of a coach they are. Lastly, I got Koty as a last-minute coach to get ready for Dallas. Koty was great, honestly similar to Impact, where anytime I messaged him, he was quick to respond and very friendly. He told me to come say hi to him at Dallas, and that was nice. I think Koty is very thoughtful about the game and has the best coaching structure of everyone I've had so far. I left our final session complimenting Koty that I felt it was the best single session I have had with a coach. This is the one coaching experience I've had where I can say definitively helped produce some results, as I went 3-0 versus Nell in side events at Dallas specifically because of some pieces of advice Koty gave me in the matchup. However, it is possible that Koty maybe gave me bad advice for the BY matchup. Really, genuinely, I have no idea at this point what the correct way to play the BY matchup is. So maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Koty gave me some advice in the matchup that made sense, so I did with that method of winning versus BY at Dallas, and unfortunately it didn't work out for me. I know Koty also feels like the matchup is very BY favored. Impact, on the other hand, has a completely different approach to the matchup, and he destroyed every single BY he played at Dallas. This could be survivorship bias, so I don't know who is right, but the results for this particular weekend shows that Impact's method of approaching the matchup was more successful for at least this specific weekend. Ultimately, all of my coaches I think are really good at what they do. I really do. I don't regret getting any of them, but my general takeaway currently is that the prices that coaches have to and should charge is just not worth it for most people. That said, I think Impact's Medify group could be worth it, and I personally will be giving it a go because I'm still dedicated to doing whatever is necessary to be good at this silly game. Maybe I'll make an updated video about that experience after Nats. Who knows? Thanks for watching.